Welcome to another Kids Online video. It's great to see you here again this week, and welcome if it's your first time joining in. Hopefully we can have lots of fun together. So last week John and I did a challenge, and what I learnt from that challenge is John's better at building spaghetti towers than I am. But this week, I thought the challenge will be for you. Over the last few weeks, we have been looking at the story of Moses. We've looked at lots of different things that have happened to Moses, which have been pretty incredible. So this week, I thought we'd start this week's video with a quiz about Moses' life. You might be thinking, oh no, I haven't watched the last few weeks' videos, but that's okay. It's only going to be 3 questions. So you might actually already know the answers because they're not too tricky. So you might want to go and grab paper and pen, or you might just want to say the answers out loud. Let's see how many you can get right. The questions will appear on the screen. Question number 1. What did Moses' staff turn into when he threw it on the ground? Was it A, a snake, B, a bird, or C, a frog? We looked at that story a few weeks ago. I wonder which one it is. Can anyone guess? Does anyone know? It was A, a snake. When Moses threw his staff on the ground, it turned into a snake. And then when he picked it up by the tail, it turned back into a staff. Isn't God incredible? Question number 2. How many plagues did God send before Pharaoh let God's people go? John mentioned that about the plagues last week. Can anyone remember the number? You might already know. So let's have a little think. How many plagues did God send? And the answer is 10. 10 plagues were sent before Pharaoh let God's people go. And then Pharaoh changed his mind. But this helps us with our next question. What's the name of the sea God parted? So the Israelites got to this sea and they were like, oh no, how are we going to get through that? How are we going to escape? But God parted the sea. And what was the name of the sea? It was the Red Sea. God parted the Red Sea so that the Israelites could walk right through it. I wonder how many questions you got right. Maybe you got them all right. Well done. And maybe you didn't get any right, but that's okay. So let's get comfy for this week's story. So we find the Israelites in today's story, and they are very unhappy. The Israelites were unhappy because they'd forgotten about what God had done for them. Remember last week, we saw how God split the sea and they escaped Egypt. But they'd forgotten that, and that they thought their life in Egypt was better than what they are facing now. In the desert, the whole community told Moses and Aaron they weren't happy with them. The Israelites said to them, "We wish the Lord had put us to death in Egypt. There we sat around eating pots of meat. We ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us out into this desert. You must want us all to die of hunger." Then the Lord spoke to Moses. He said, "I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people must go out each day, and they have to gather enough bread for that day." So Moses and Aaron spoke to the people of Israel. "In the evening you will know that the Lord brought you out of Egypt. In the morning you will see the glory of God. He has heard you aren't happy with him. Moses also said, he will give you meat in the evening, and he will give you all the bread in the morning. The Lord said to Moses, I've heard the people being unhappy. Tell them when the sun goes down, you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be filled with bread. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. That evening, quail came and covered the camp. In the morning, the ground around the camp was covered with dew. When the dew was gone, thin flakes appeared on the desert floor. They looked like frost on the ground. The people of Israel saw the flakes. They asked each other, what was that? They didn't know what it was, but Moses said to them, it is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. The whole of the community of Israel travelled from place to place, just as the Lord had commanded. But when they camped, there wasn't any water for the people to drink. So they argued with Moses. They said, give us water to drink. Moses replied, why are you arguing with me? Why are you putting the Lord to the test? But the people were thirsty for water. So they told Moses they weren't happy with him. They said, why did you bring us out of Egypt? Did you want us, our children, and all of us to die of thirst? Then Moses cried out to the Lord, what am I going to do with these people? They're almost ready to kill me by throwing stones at me. The Lord answered Moses. He said, walk ahead of your people and take some elders of Israel along with you. Take the wooden staff you used when you struck the Nile. I will stand there in front of you by the rock. Then water will come out of it for the people to drink. So Moses hit the rock. And guess what happened? Water came out of it. God provided all that they needed. He provided food, water. And you know what? He was with them always. Isn't that an incredible story? God provided all that they needed. And that's amazing. He provided food, water, and he never left them. Even though they kept forgetting that God had provided for them and been with them, and they thought their old life was better. But God was with them and God provided. So let's move on to our craft for this week. Let's go. For this week's craft, we're going to make a basket, because each morning the Israelites went out with their baskets to collect up bread, which looked like little flakes. So you might want to grab some tissue paper or something to look like the little flakes to go in the basket. But also, God provided quail in the evening. So on the kids' activity sheet, there is a template for a quail, which is a bird that you might want to make instead. All you need for this craft is some paper, pens, glue, scissors, stickers, anything you might like to decorate. You could have coloured card or paper or plain paper, and you could just colour it in. Let's begin with today's craft. we prayed those big prayers. God can do anything. And you might have written or drawn those prayers to God. And over the last few weeks, we've been praying in different ways. We've listened for pictures and words, and we've just spent moments with God. And that story reminds me. So last week I was reminded that God can do anything. But in today's story, I was reminded that God can provide what we need for each day. And that's incredible. And do you know what? Sometimes I can forget what God has already done for me. And that reminds me that I need to be thankful to God each day. So why don't you just spend a moment, like we've done before, being thankful? Why don't you say thank you to God for something, for today, or something that's happened this week? I wonder what you were thankful for. Also, over the last few weeks we've talked about prayer. And do you know what? You can pray anytime, anywhere. That's something we always talk about in Kids Church. But lots and lots of weeks ago, when we did Instagram Lives, we made a prayer box. And some of you might have already made this box, but some of you might want to make one after this video. This is a good way of praying because you can write down your prayers and pop them in the box, but they don't have to be prayers just for you. Do you know also, one way I find helpful to pray is to write it down in a journal. So this is my prayer journal, and it's got pictures and words and prayers to God in. And I write down exactly how I am feeling. But you know, you don't have to write down prayers. You can just say them out loud or even in your head. God hears you and he wants to have a conversation with you. So I was thinking, before we end today's video, that we can spend some time praying. But you can pray however works best for you. So maybe you want to write it down in a journal. Maybe you want to write some prayers for family and friends, pop it in a prayer box. Or maybe you just want to have a conversation with God out loud or in your head. So music will play, and why don't you spend this time talking to God? And do you know what? You don't have to use big fancy words. You can be like, hi God, please can you help me with this? God, please can you provide this for me today? Pray however works for you. Let's go.
Every day is filled with voices, so much noise inside my head. And when I'm scared and when I'm feeling all alone, all I gotta do is speak your name. Say it by day, say it by night, say it till the end of time. All I gotta do is speak your name. When I wake up in the morning, you're my friend throughout the day. And when I close my eyes to sleep the night away, all I gotta do is speak your name.
I wonder how that time was for you. I love that there's so many ways that you can pray and talk to God. God's always there and he is always listening. And I want you to remember this week, God provided for the Israelites what they needed each day. And he can provide for you what you need each day too. So I'm going to pray to finish this video. So if it helps you, I'm gonna put my hands together and close my eyes. If that helps you concentrate, you can do that too. Dear God, thank you for Moses' life and all that we've learned over the last few weeks about Moses. How you used Moses to rescue the people from Egypt, how that you can do anything, God, and that you can provide. You never left Moses, and thank you that you never leave us. Help us to remember that this week and today. Amen. See you next week, and next week there'll be another challenge video. Lauren versus Vicky. Let's see who's going to win. Bye.